All right, the NASCAR game didn't go entirely as planned, but I still like the sentiment.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're the podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my new promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off of your order, only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube page. Leave a comment on that. And if you're leaving a comment on any of the social media sites, make sure to leave the hashtag that says, where is it? Where is my hashtag? There it is, Everyday Sully. It helps us find some of the comments, helps us find some of the answers to some of the trivia questions that I throw out there. The last trivia question, by the way, I had the big trade deadline squad show after the trade deadline, and then I had an evergreen show which was about A-Rod and Mike Trout managing. I needed to take a couple of days, and also I'll address the post-trade deadline mentality that I have. But the last trivia question I had was, what do World Series MVPs Ray Knight, Hideki Matsui, Jorge Soler, Jack Morris, and John Wetland all have in common? Jumper Startful says they were all baseball players. And do you know what, Cliff? That's a great Cliff Clavin type answer. And I cannot deny that, but that is not really what I was looking for. The answer, Jackson Van Hooser said they all players won the World Series, actually won the World Series MVP, and then left the next off season. That's correct. Ray Knight, Hideki Matsui, Jorge Soler, Jack Morris, John Wetland. I think there's another one in there that I missed. But yeah, they were all World Series MVPs, and they were all gone by opening day the next year. Ray Knight won the MVP in '86 for the Mets. He was with the Orioles the next year. Matsui went to the Angels. Jorge Soler went to the Marlins. Jack Morris went to the Blue Jays. John Wetland went to the Texas Rangers. I think I'm missing another one there. But yes, they all went to different places. By the way, when the trade deadline is over, it always reminds me of the end of a Godzilla film, or there's always a scene in a Godzilla film, whether it's the old school ones with the dudes in the rubber suits, or Godzilla -1, which was the film that came out a couple of years ago, which is a legitimately excellent movie, not just for Godzilla fans. It's like well written, well acted, well executed, and great. But no matter what, if dude in a rubber suit or the brilliance of Godzilla -1, there's always that scene after Godzilla or whichever monster has leveled Tokyo that they're surveying the aftermath of the devastation. And I always think of that whenever I'm looking over the trade deadline, because it's like so much happened and so many buildings collapsed and Godzilla stomped on so many people and so much fire breath came out. Like, all right, wait, what just happened? What just happened? And it took me like a day and a half to realize that Luis Robert Jr. wasn't traded. There was a couple of people we've been hearing all freaking year we're going to be traded. Who's going to get this? Who's going to get that? And like, oh, wait, no. And then the aftermath of everything kind of starts to make sense about a couple of days afterwards. And we all saw the Yankees' first day with all the new hired hands. We're going to get to the Yankees Marlins series in a little bit. But that I needed a little bit to just, after the lunacy of the trade deadline, to just have a couple of minutes to just sort of take stock of myself there. Hey, let's take a look at who owned baseball for the third day of August 2025. Lucas Giolito, he held the Astros to 3 hits and 1 run. Break up the Red Sox. They've leapfrogged the Yankees and actually are not 100% out of the division right now. When you took a look at the Astros were playing them, well, a lot of people, including myself, thought like, oh boy, this is going to be a tough one for the Red Sox. Clean sweep. And Giolito threw 8 innings, 3 hits and 1 run. And there you go. And Christopher Sanchez threw 8 innings of 5-hit ball as the Phillies blanked the Tigers 2-0. Let me tell you something. I watched the ESPN game between Detroit and Philadelphia. If that's a World Series preview, sign me up. Those were 2 teams who pitched well, played well, fielded well. It was good, crisp baseball. Heaven forbid I see that late in October. Hey, Spencer Horwitz homered twice. He drove in 6. The Pirates topped Colorado 9-5. That was a completely bananas series where there's the Pirates took a 9-0 lead on Friday in the first inning and wound up losing the game. Yesterday, Liover Peguero hit 3 home runs for the Pirates, and they lost the game. And today, Spencer Horwitz, he wound up having the great game with his 2 homers, and the Pirates salvaged a game there. And Taylor Ward, don't count out the Angels yet. He got a walk-off 3-run home run, and the Angels topped the Chicago White Sox 8-5. I know they're a long shot, but there's a couple of teams in the American League who do not seem like they're very much interested in actually getting to the postseason. Half Wobs went to Drew Milas, who drove in 2 for the Nationals, but they were clobbered by Milwaukee 14-3. JJ Bleday went 4 for 4 with a homer, but Sacramento came up short to Arizona 6-4. Chris Bassett held the Royals to 1 hit and 1 run over 6 innings. I can see why you'd want to take him out. And the Blue Jays lost to Kansas City. Andre Palante pitched well over 5 innings, but the Cardinals lost to the Padres. So there you go on that. Hey, the game between the Braves and the Reds that took place on the Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. Was this a try run well, it certainly wasn't a dry run, but a trial run, I guess is the word I'm looking for baseball in Tennessee. The game wound up going to the Atlanta Braves, and they wound up winning the game 4-2. It was not the great smashing success in one way because, well, there was a big honking rain delay and a suspended game, and they picked it up the next day. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot of some bad decisions were made on Saturday night. The game turned out fine on Sunday. But the fact of the matter is, even though it wasn't a smashing perfect success, I'm actually kind of all for this with baseball. And I think that this is something that they should really, I don't know, maybe lean into every year, especially with how I want them to reorganize the season. All right, let's hear a little bit from our good friends over at 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor to your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends and family, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Now, let's face it, some days on the course or off it, you need an extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Today, I went golfing, not just with my cousin Josh, who I usually golf with on the weekend, but also our dear friend Eleanor. So Eleanor, Josh, and I went out golfing, the 3 of us. And Eleanor made an absolutely wild shot where I thought she was going right into the drink, went right over it onto the green, and guess what? She was barking up a storm, got herself a birdie. Josh and I, well, let's just say, wasn't our day. Eleanor outgolfed both of us. And, at the end of the course, Eleanor had tons of energy, but Josh and I, we needed ourselves a little bit of a boost. And that's where the 5 Hour Energy comes in. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor. Eleanor loved it. And it gives you the best parts of the clubhouse go without chasing down the old Bev cart. Now, if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my new promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid through September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. And this code is not good for other subscription orders. Use 5-Hour Energy, 5hourenergy.com, promo code LOCKEDONGolf. And you should have seen Eleanor with that driver. I've been saying on the podcast, I said on the old podcast, I am all for starting the season with the All-Star game. And I'm going to do a whole podcast episode about the things I would do for a break instead of an All-Star game. But I think one cool thing they could do is to make sure during the break there's always a cool, weird game like this. You know, I have no problem with games in Japan or games in Korea or games in London. I have a little problem with starting the season that way because it starts the season with a whisper instead of a bang. Starting the game, the season with an all-star game is starting the season, I think, with quite a huge bang. Excuse me, I had to scratch my eye. But having the game being played in Bristol, the Bristol, Tennessee Speedway, not the home of ESPN, I love the idea of it. There were some things they messed up. There's no getting around those things they messed up. When they saw the rain was as awful as it was going to be, they should have postponed the game to Sunday. Sunday was there like a free-floating life raft in case the weather was going to be crappy on Saturday. And it was clear it was going to be that way. Don't have people show up to the raceway, sit there, have a delay for 3 hours. Poor A-Rod, Derek Jeter, and David Ortiz had to vamp and improvise for the length of the movie Gandhi and then say, oh, guess what? That's it. They had issues with food. They were running out of food. Now, Brody Brazil, who has a great YouTube channel for baseball and sports talk, was trying to compare it to the Fire Festival. It wasn't that bad, but they were running out of hot dogs. They were running out of. They had nachos without cheese. Okay, they didn't have enough food for everyone because they had a big 3-hour delay, and there was nothing to do but freaking eat. And so when they opened the gates up on Sunday, and they had to do a massive cleanup and turnaround because they had a full house. On Saturday, the rains came. They had to get everyone the hell out of there. They only played an inning and a third. They picked the top of the first and like one out in the bottom of the first. And then they said, okay, we're picking this up tomorrow. Now, not everyone could show up. Not everyone could, block off a whole weekend like that. And they should have just said, if they had that free floating life raft, they should have just said, screw it, we're going to Sunday. I love the fact that they had to reverse their bring your own food policy for the Sunday game because it was like, yeah, we got no more hot dogs, we got no more pretzels. Bring a sandwich. You should. By the way, this is a life hack from your pal Sully. Eat before you go to the game. Seriously, when I went to the game in Sacramento earlier this year, I had a Tupperware container of leftovers, and I was sitting in the parking lot of Sutter Health Park with a fork, and I was eating we had leftover chicken and rice that my mom had made the night before. It was delicious, and I just put it in there, and all I did is I bought a soda at the ballpark. You don't need to get a loan to get your hot dog and your pretzel. Just eat before you show up. I digress. The game itself was fine. Atlanta wound up winning, and the pageantry was kind of cool with the race car going around and the trophy. It was kind of like it was fun. It was a fun for a one game situation, and I do think that they should continue to do that. I think they should continue to have games like that. It's fun. It breaks up the rhythm of the season, And I think they should have that in lieu of the All-Star game in the middle of the year. I think there should be 4 teams keep playing during that break. You should have the one weird game, whether it's a game in London, the game in Paris, have a game in, uh, you know, the Aloha Stadium in Hawaii, the game in Japan, a game in Korea, a game in Australia, whatever, wherever the weird game you're going to have. Or you have the game like they had in Birmingham last year, or the game where they had the Field of Dreams game. That could be it. That should be always, what is the strange game this year? And the other game, and so you have 2 teams playing there, and you have 2 other teams playing in the Hall of Fame game. And they play a game at Cooperstown the same day that they have the election, the induction of the Hall of Famers. And you try to have it be that you have the 2, like this year I would have had the Mariners and the Pirates, for example, because you have the Ichiro fans, you have the Dave Parker fans, and you could have something like that. But I would love to see them continue to do that. Now, I don't think they have anything planned for next year. Next year is the 150th anniversary, or is it the 200th? I think it's the 150th anniversary of the release of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. And it'd be interesting to maybe have, I'm spitballing here, but Mark Twain is a great figure in American history, someone worth celebrating in American history, in my very humble opinion. And he also loved baseball. He was a baseball fan. And so, and there's no shortage of people who devote their lives to Mark Twain. I thought maybe you go try to find, is there a place near where he grew up in Hannibal, Missouri? There's a minor league ballpark. It's not big enough to hold a stadium, but I don't know. That was my first instinct, to take a look at who we should be celebrating, or what kind of interesting game we should be having. I don't know. I'm shooting stuff around here. And if you have any ideas, and this is something maybe I'll throw out to you, where would you like to see a game? I would love to see a major league game in Aloha Stadium in Hawaii. I think that'd be cool. And the other one is at the ballpark. It used to be called Keyspan Park. I actually don't remember what it's called right now. Forgive me. They changed parks so fast. In Brooklyn. And to have the Mets play the Dodgers in Brooklyn, to bring back Major League Baseball to Brooklyn for at least one day. I think that would be really cool. I think that would be great. You have to be the Mets, and it would have to be the Dodgers. The Dodgers return to Brooklyn. The Dodgers play a Major League game in Brooklyn for the first time since 1957. And boom, there it is. That's next year. Not next year. That's for 2027. Boom, let's see it. Absolutely. I've suggested that before, but now I 100% all for that. And maybe they can add some seats, or they can just turn it into a huge game. That's what I think, and they should do. But I'm all for it because it's fun, and it breaks things up in the middle of the season. And then when we get back to it, we get right back to the game of baseball. And there was a series that took place this weekend that defied explanation and had a bunch of people scratching their heads, except for some of us who already knew that one very good team was playing a slumping team, but people mixed up which one was which. All right, let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green like me, Josh, and Eleanor, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. If you're already following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Now, for me, when I make my bets on FanDuel, and Lord knows I do all the time, I'm usually leaning in towards the pitching matchups. How many strikeouts are Paul Skeens going to get? How great is the performance going to be for Mizorowski, or with Jacob deGrom, or with Max Scherzer? It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm in on the action. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 bucks back in bonus bets. Say that 3 times fast if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Now, I'm sure you saw what happened in Miami. The Yankees retooled their team. They brought in Bednar. They brought in, they brought in from Colorado. They brought in from San Francisco. They brought a bunch of players in, and they all came up super small in that first game in Miami, in one of the strangest games ever told. And it was Jake Bird. For whatever reason, I couldn't remember Jake Bird's name. Forgive me. Bird was awful. Bednar was awful. And Camilo Doval was terrible. And I was on the trade show with the squad show, and I mentioned that, hey, there's not a Giants fan. I'm in the Bay Area right now. There's not a Giants fan here in the Bay Area who didn't realize that they got a break when they got Duval off the team. And when you make a trade, a GM should do a poll of the fan base, of the people who've been watching the pitchers. Instead of looking at the analytics, ask the fans, how do you feel when they come in? Armando Benitez for years put up great stats, and everyone's convinced he was a great closer. And every fan base, I knew fan bases in San Francisco, Baltimore, and in New York, who all just gulped every time he was called from the bullpen. Well, Doval, yeah, the pitch that won the game was a little dribbler, but he also walked everybody. He let up the big hit with a right fielder, overran the ball. And the Yankees lost that 13-12 game. And then the team, they looked sloppy in that game, and they were dead. Saturday and Sunday, if they had dusted themselves off and said, do you want F this? We're going to show who we are. But they didn't. They didn't even show up. The Saturday game, they didn't show up. I mean, by the end, they were just waving the white flag. Jazz Chisholm made that bonehead play. Everyone just looked stupid and bored in that game. And then the game that took place today, the Yankees scored 3 runs. Surprise, they were all on homers. And they just didn't look into it. 2 straight games, they didn't get it. They didn't look into it. They were swept by Miami. And they have fallen behind the Red Sox. And there is a much, much larger than 0 chance that they'll miss the playoffs. They're right now locked antlers with the Seattle Mariners, and they're going to be playing the Texas Rangers, who are the team that is on the outside looking in. If the Rangers make up ground on the Yankees, there is a very good chance the Yankees could miss the playoffs. And they look stupid. They look unprepared. Their defense is atrocious. And I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people are calling for Boone's head. He's not going to be fired because he's the built-in excuse that Judge got hurt and Garrett Cole got hurt, and he's best friends with with Cashman and everyone. So he's not going anywhere. Cashman isn't going anywhere. But this team is falling like a rock. And a lot of people were saying, and they got swept by the Marlins. The Marlins, they keep saying that as if the Marlins are a 100-loss team. I got news for you folks. If you take a look at really the last, let's just say roughly the last 2 months, which is roughly a third of the season. The Yankees, over the last couple of months, have been the second worst team in the American League. Only Minnesota has been worse than them. And yes, the White Sox are a tick better than them in the last month. This isn't a bad week. This is a third of the season. And that same third of the season, no team in the National League has won more games than the Marlins. They're tied with the Milwaukee Brewers in that stretch, but still. The Marlins have been playing outstanding baseball, and they are not only not a 100-loss team, they are, we're playing 110 games or so. They're at 500. They're at even 500. And they have a magic number. Their magic number is 27. If the Marlins go 27 and 25, they will finish this year with a winning record. They have to play 2 games better than 500 for the rest of the way. They have to win 27 games through the rest of August, through the end of the season. And if they do that, they will finish the year as a winning team. And it will be the second time in 3 years that they'll put a winning product on the field. And if you include the COVID season, which is a weird season to include, it would be the third time this decade they've had a winning product on the field. And this is why I'm glad they didn't blow up the team and trade away Augustin Ramirez and Sandy Alcantara and all of them. I'm glad, and Yuri Perez. I'm glad they didn't blow up the team. I'm glad they didn't because, frankly, they could build on this. If they finish the season with a winning record, they're probably not going to miss the. They're probably going to miss the playoffs. I think that ship has sailed because San Diego and Chicago and New York and Philadelphia and Los Angeles and Milwaukee, they're all just better. But if they finish with 82 wins, you could go into the 2026 season and say, we have a legitimate shot if they don't blow up the team. And all they'd have to do is not blow up the team and put a major leaguer at every position. The final week before spring training begins, before you have to report, they should take a look at everyone who's still available, who's desperate for a job, every unsigned veteran, and dangle like a $5 million deal, 1 year, $5 million deal, and saying, hey, no one's signing you? We'll sign you for 1 year. You have to be a millionaire in Miami and play on a potential winning team. And just put a major leaguer at every position that need, every hole, you fill every hole with at least one major leaguer. And keep the team that they have here. And, Alcantara is having a disappointing season, but if he's your number 3 or 4 starter, knowing what he's capable of, they could be really exciting. So before you talk about this sweep and say, oh, I can't believe the Yankees got swept by the lowly Marlins, they're not the lowly Marlins. They've been for a third of the season an elite team. And the Yankees for a third of the season has been a complete garbage team. Now, the Yankees can still turn it around. A good series against Texas and a good month of August. It's only like there was only the 4th day of August. If they have a good month of August, then they can solidify their playoff spot and roll the dice when they get to the postseason. But they first have to get there. This has been going on for a while. This is going on for a long while. And they have to right this ship because the chances of them missing the playoffs is not out of the question. And the chances of the Marlins finishing the season above 500, that's sitting right there. Just a decent August could put them in the driver's seat. But we'll see what happens. And we got a full week of games and a lot of great games coming up. We'll see what happens, and we'll cover some teams other than the Yankees and Marlins on tomorrow's show. But let's go for the trivia question right now. I brought up Mark Twain. What was the name of the professional baseball team that Mark Twain followed and whose games he frequently attended? What was the name of the professional baseball team that Mark Twain followed and whose games he frequently attended? That is today's trivia question. And thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, keep it right here on this channel and on this feed, and check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night here on the Locked On MLB feed on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Talking about the rain out that, you know what? It wasn't perfect, but I love the sentiment and the fact that don't criticize the Marlins because they're actually a lot better than you think they are. They're better than the Yankees for the last couple of months. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.